Barbell deadlift is one of the classic iterations of your hinge primary movement. I think that most people, if you say hinge, that's kind of what their brain is going to go to right off the bat. And so, to do a barbell deadlift, the first thing you're going to see is that I have this set up with 45-pound plates. The reason being that a 45 has that 18-inch diameter that's going to set that bar at a little bit higher elevation. So you may not be strong enough to do this right off the bat with 45s, but I would recommend using a bumper plate, maybe a 10 or a 15 on each side, that raises that bar up to that same height so that it's not sitting down low. And you'll see why here in a second. Whenever I set up for the barbell deadlift, one of the ways that we like to tell people to find their position is to jump in place. So if you watch, I'm going to jump, and wherever my feet naturally land, that's normally going to be your standard hip width on your conventional deadlift. And so I have this set up at an angle to you guys just because of my space here. But that being said, that's my normal setup right there. It's right about shoulder width, maybe a little bit inside. That's where I like to be personally. You may be wider, you may be closer. You just, again, jump. See where your feet land, that's going to be your normal spot. I am going to start with my shins in tight to the bar. So they're very close. I have maybe an inch, probably a little bit less of space between my hip or my shins and the bar here. Now, like we were talking about a minute ago with the height of the bar, to get into my position, I'm in a hinge, right? So my hips kick back. And then from there, my knees can bend just a little bit. I'm keeping my back nice and straight. I'm not rounding over. My back is straight. I'm just getting into a position where I can grab that bar. Now, if my bar is too low, what happens? We get down here, it's hard to maintain that neutral spine position. So that's why we like having that bar a little bit higher than if you use like one of the smaller plates to set up for your deadlift. Now, again, I'm hinging, reaching down, I'm grabbing my bar, I'm grabbing it right outside of my knees. So whenever I start my deadlift, my knees are going to be pushing into my forearms, holding that bar here. So I'm tight. Grab my bar. Now here, I'm going to get a big breath. I'm breathing into the belly, always doing that big belly breath, breathing horizontally instead of vertically. So when we breathe, we're not raising our shoulders and chest up. We're breathing into here. Going to create that tension and create as much pressure in my intra-abdominal area here as I can. And the last step before I pick the bar up is I'm going to engage my lats. And when I say that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to retract my shoulder blades and lock my back into place right there. So now I've created an immense amount of tension from the ground up through my knees, which are pushing into my arms, my back, my core. I'm tight the whole way through. From there, rather than thinking about picking the bar up off the ground, which is going to normally cause you to pull really hard with your back, I want you to think, I'm going to push the ground away from me. I'm locked in, I'm tight, and I'm just going to push the ground straight down and come up. And what happens whenever you do that is that your hips extend, your knees extend, and that's going to bring your hips through, and you're going to have your butt super tight at the top, right? So hips are locked out here. Now I can regain my breath, hold it, descend back into the floor. So what does that look like all together? I've got my feet width set. I'm standing up nice and tall, going to get my neutral position that I like, I'm comfortable with. You can even get your breath up here depending on how prepared you are to pick up the bar. Big breath, I hinge, grab the bar right outside of my knees. Knees are going to push into the arms, retracting the shoulder blade. You can kind of hear that clicking there. I'm taking that tension out of the bar, pushing the ground straight down. Boom. Now at the top, you can see what happened. My hips push through into the bar. What I didn't do is extend and lean back here. That's going to put a lot of strain on your low back that we don't necessarily want. Those muscles are working to tighten everything. Believe me, we don't need to emphasize that anymore. So I'm at the top. My shoulder blades are still engaged, right? And then from there, what always moves first on our hinge or our squat? Our butt. Butt drops back. This bar is going to get past my knees. Then I can bend them, right? So again, big breath, shoulders, knees, everything's locked tight. I push the ground straight down. Boom. Hips are following through. I'm squeezing my butt. Hinging back, bar slides down my thighs, past my knees, I bend and return to the floor. That is a conventional barbell deadlift.